avoiding harm. So avoiding harm, whether it is a mental or a physical harm. So researchers have a responsibility to ensure that the study does not harm to any participants or communities involved. And also they need to assess the risks that the participants may face. Sometimes, like when you are collecting the data, especially when the data is very sensitive, right? And what might be the risk that the participant may face. Or sometimes when you are collecting the data, would there be any mental harm or would there be any sort of a physical harm? So that you need to assess. And sometimes how can there be some mental harm or physical harm may happen when there are use of invasive techniques. So what are those invasive techniques? For example, maybe in psychology, sometimes even in education, maybe invasive techniques, maybe in an experimental research. In order to see the level of performance when the individual, that is the level of sleep, right? The amount of sleep, especially more than level, the amount of sleep and the performance of the individual. A person who sleeps for 8 hours, that one group. The people who sleep only for 3 hours or less than 3 hours, another control group, and another group who are not allowed to sleep at all. Okay? And the experiment is conducted where the individual's performance is, all the individuals are asked to do certain type of a performance, and they check what is the impact of the amount of sleep on the performance of the individual. Okay? So no doubt the individual who has slept well, their performance was very high. We come out with a theory saying that the sleep is very important for performance. Otherwise people with lack of sleep will perform less. For people who does not sleep at all, their performance is very poor or very less. But sometimes it may be a psychological, maybe disruption. So it may lead to fatigue to an individual, right? It may lead to a fatigue to the individual. And you are preventing an individual's sleep, you are harming an individual, right? Not only that, there is also psychological experiments, that is both psychology and education, they overlap. They want to see the performance and achievement of the students or people by inducing the drug, level of drug, quantity of drug, and maybe the placebo, the one control group who does not given just only a colored water, and then its effect on performance. That is also a sort of a mental or a physical harm. So any harm that leads to some sort of a trauma or a stress, sometimes even when you are making the individual to work for a longer hours in our experimental researches, or making them physical fatigue as well as mental fatigue, you should assess all those risks before you are planning your research. Because maybe some sort of invasive techniques leading to some sort of mental harm or physical harm, they should be avoided. Sometimes the intrusive interrogations, maybe interrogations happen in case of some legal or criminal and all that. Maybe as academic researchers, you may limit your questions wherever there is the data requirement to sensitive questions. That sensitive questions should not induce an individual to go to the level of a trauma, or should not take the shape of an interrogation, right? Otherwise, it is unethical in an academic research. You must have seen even in case of cognitive psychologists, the chimpanzees, they wanted to see the level of submission and aggression. So in order to convert the aggressive chimpanzees to submissiveness, right, to change the trait, they have used invasive techniques. Some parts of the brain, when certain parts are being electrified or some part is removed, that aggressiveness is converted to submissiveness, where you are harming both mentally and physically an animal. Now the medical research imposes so many guidelines, maybe the use of animals, use of other types of specimens, use of human beings also. They are all ethical considerations. So as education people, you must have all known one of the Watson's experiment on Albert, the child that was a 10-month-old, sometimes they say 9 month, 10 month, 11, whatever it is, a small child, how in a classical conditioning, how the child was conditioned to fear the sound of the bell, and then maybe looking at a white rat, and later it was found when the child grew up, the child started fearing even looking at the Santa Claus. Those days it was accepted, right, as a psychological experiment for classical conditioning, but in today's standard, it is considered as both a mental harm to the child. Okay? So whenever you are conducting the research, you should see that what amount of mental harm or physical harm it may create to the participant. So you should avoid any mental harm or physical harm that may happen to the participants. Otherwise, such type of researchers are considered unethical. So in case if it is very important, if the risk is very minimum, if the risk is not long term, not very that is long lasting, if it is very minimum, sometimes people, as per some of the people have argued, that needs to be compensated. Okay? So such type of standards have been followed. Maybe avoiding harm, both mental and physical, is very important. If it leads to some sort of trauma or maybe even physical or mental, that is considered as unethical in academic research. And guaranteed anonymity. See, this is very important. Some people, they don't want their identity to be revealed. They are ready to give their opinion, they are ready to give the data, they are ready to speak. So, but they like to remain anonymous. They don't want their identity to be revealed. You must have seen so many opinions. Sometimes even in newspapers, we see name changed, isn't it? Sometimes even on television, those there are some people, but their faces are blurred. Because the individuals, they don't want their face to be shown. So that is individual identity. So as an individual, if a participant does not want their identity to be revealed, whether their name, whether their face, or whether their address, their location, or their personal details, right, whatever it is, and that should be guaranteed. So even in case of letter also, we ask the people, wherever it is not required, when name does not matter to us, we also ask them, you may remain anonymous when they are filling the form on an online survey. If their name has nothing to do with that, in case if it is a case study, if it is required very much, then it is okay. Otherwise, if the personal name has no meaning to the research, we ask in our letter to remain anonymous. They need not fill their name. They need not reveal their identity. We require only the data, not the individual's identity. So, if you have guaranteed the individual that their identities will not be revealed, that should be maintained. In case of you collect the data and then identity is revealed, that is unethical in an academic research. So, maintaining the anonymity or guaranteed anonymity is another important ethical consideration that you need to maintain. Avoiding betrayal, deception and misinformation. See here, there are so many for and against arguments are there when it comes to deception and misinformation. So deceptive techniques. So what these deceptive techniques, in the sense, many a times we may be collecting the data for some purpose, but we may tell the participants some other thing. When you are collecting data, you are collecting it keeping some purpose in mind, but you are telling the participant like this is the reason we are collecting the data. You are not completely revealing why the data is being collected. So that is called as a deception. You are not telling the truth you are not telling the fact. When you are interviewing people or when you are taking their maybe photos, when we are taking their images or something, when you are not telling them exactly why that is being collected, if you are giving some other reason that why it is being done, then it is wrong. Then it is wrong. So here that becomes deception. You are giving the wrong reason. You are giving the wrong reason. You are giving the wrong purpose for collecting the data instead of telling the truth. And that should not happen in an academic research. And apart from that, that is also a misinformation. Misinformation, and here in case of a misinformation and deception, sometimes you may reveal the truth or fact partially, and partially it may be wrong, right? It may be completely wrong or it may be partially wrong. Sometimes the deception can also be research goal. With regard to research goals and aims, you may give a misleading information. With regard to research setup, you may give a misleading information. With regard to researcher's identity, who you are, why you are here, what for you are collecting, you may give a wrong reason. And the nature of participants' task or role, and what they are supposed to do, what they are doing, you may simply misleading, and other possible risk consequences of the participants. So there may be a false information and also a defective information. So false information means presenting a completely wrong picture of the true research. Whereas in case of a defective information, you may withhold some part of the key information. You may give wrong, like to tell you the information, like misinformation or deception. One of the like students from B.Ed and all, you must be knowing it. Like whenever there is a citizenship training camp and all that, whenever the students are going and camping, they are supposed to go to the villages, do some survey, collect some information and all that. There are a few places, especially fixed, especially the Bangalore colleges, they go to those places for camping and all that. And those people who are around there, they are fed up because every year so many institutions are going, and again everyone is having the same type of a performa, and everyone is asking the same questions. They don't even want to entertain them, they don't want to answer them, right? They don't want to give. So in one case, one of the teachers said, by showing one of the candidate, see, these are the people have come with a team from Delhi to assess the socio-economic status. Those who don't have proper maybe like infrastructure, those who are poor, those who don't have animals, who don't have proper house and all that, they will be given financial aid. That is why the data is collected. Okay. So what happened? They were standing near one house. All villagers from different houses, they started coming there, started saying, please come to our house, please collect the data from there, from here, from there. And somehow they were feeling very, very happy that they collected the data without any hassles and they brought it. But when it comes to research, doing such, it is called as deception and misinformation. They did not tell them the purpose for which that they are collecting the information. They gave a wrong hopes. It is a misinformation and it is a deception in order to collect the data. This is the example I am giving you, like what deception or misinformation can be. So many a times you may give information to them which is socially desirable, where the participant may feel very, very happy and they may say, yeah, we will like to give it, this, that and all that. Okay. And later that would be used for some other purpose. So such type of misinformation and deception should be completely avoided in case of an academic research. Maybe giving a complete wrong information or part of wrong information is very, very bad. But sometimes some of the researchers, they argue that in some cases this type of data is required, where you feel that you need to collect the data, but the data will not be given by the participants if the true nature is revealed to them. This happens mostly only in cases not for academic research, maybe for some other researchers, maybe for some other type of information. Maintaining, we spoke about maintaining confidentiality. Maintaining confidentiality. If a party, you have collected information, something from the individual, where the individual is at risk, where the individual is going to do something which is not good for the society or maybe good for the community. So there, after knowing it, sometimes you need to reveal. You need to reveal. Sometimes maybe in case of clinical psychologists, where there are mental disorders and all that, to the clinical psychologists and psychiatrists, sometimes the children, the students, youths and the adults, they have spoken about their suicidal tendencies. They have spoken to them openly that maybe sometimes, someday they want to do that, they want to commit suicide, they would this, that and all. And they have said it by taking the doctor or a psychiatrist into confidentiality. After they have assured that, they will not reveal that to anybody. But in such cases, some people argue that it is very important that we need to reveal it to the parents or to the guardians to safeguard the risk, right? To safeguard the information. Sometimes you may obtain an information on confidentiality, maybe some information which may be very, very suicidal or not socially desirable to the society, to the community or maybe to the country, right? In such cases, the data need to be, or information need to be released to the competent authorities so that such type of undesirable things does not happen. So that is only in case of such type of situations, but may not be in an academic research. Okay, so even this misinformation or deception are also in case of such type of information extraction, not in case of an academic research. So these are some of the very, very important ethical considerations that we need to keep it in mind when you are conducting an